Jimmie is starting a new job today. Nervous? Oh no, not Jimmie. Jimmie is a rock. A pillar. What's wrong, Jimmie? Oh no, Jimmie, don't believe the lies. I don't care what your mother-in-law says. Here, I'll help you. Let's review.
Anodization can be broken into only a few basic practices to start. Quantity, racking and unracking, quality control, safety, and cleanliness.
Yes, Jimmie? Oh, for sure it's more difficult than that. But for now, we're focusing on the basics. Anodizing increases corrosion resistance and wear resistance, and provides better adhesion for primers, paints, and glues than does bare metal. There are many different kinds of and reasons for anodization, such as Type 1, Type 1B, Type 1C, Type 2, Type 2B, Type 3, and that's not including any of the classes. But oh, don't you worry, Jimmie. Are you crying? You are ridiculous. You are a grown man. Now, anodizing can be a very simple job as long as you follow some basic steps. And arguably the most important part of this job is racking and unracking of the parts. I know it doesn't seem like it would be important. I mean, why would it matter how you place the part on the rack? It's just being dipped into a big vat of solutions. That's where you would be wrong.
The racking of your parts is going to be very specific to the types of parts that you are placing on the racks.
If you have a part that is cup-like, it should be placed with the cup facing off to the side like so. This will allow fluid to enter into the open space and also allow for proper drainage of the solution and to prevent two terms that we call air entrapment or solution entrapment. As each part is unique, special care and evaluation of the part should be practiced before it is racked. This will ensure that the best and most effective coverage of the part will take place during processing. With certain processes in anodizing, an electrical current is passed through the bar into the rack, and is then passed onto the part. This is necessary to achieve the proper kind of finish that this part requires. When performing this process, special care needs to be taken when connecting the parts to the racks. If parts are not securely connected to the racks, the electrical current could arc, causing burns and damage to the part, and then the part would have to be reprocessed completely. Or in worse cases, we would have to dispose of the part and start over from the beginning. It is extremely important to take special care and not over-tighten the parts to the rack. This can cause damage to the part and make it completely unusable. You must take special care to make sure that the part has good contact with the rack and the bar without damaging the part. I bet when you were learning basic math in school, you were thinking, when will I ever use this? Well, today's your lucky day, because counting is one of the most basic and important parts of your job. It's also one of the most enjoyable things that you will do throughout your day. 1, 2, 3 numbers. They're fun. Now let's take just a moment to talk about simplifying the counting process. The counting process can be simplified in several ways, one of which is grouping. Grouping is when you simply stack parts in groups of 10. This technique is especially effective when counting larger amounts of parts. Another way to keep track of how many parts you have is by racking your parts in specific amounts. If an employee knows they were grouped in racks by tens, he simply has to confirm that fact and then count the racks or groups of parts, instead of counting each part individually. See, I told you so. Counting parts is fun and easy. Also remember to count parts before and after each process. This is extremely important. It is important to note when placing parts on racks to make sure that all the parts on the rack are receiving the same process of anodization. If they are not receiving the same process according to the work order, find another order that is receiving that process and rack them accordingly. If not, this will cause many delays. The parts will then have to be stripped and refinished according to their specifications. Jimmie, take a look at this seasoned plating employee. Look at how he moves with every ebb and flow of his working environment. Smooth, fluid. Ooh, watch this. Yes, he's got something here. Yep, just as I suspected. You see what he is doing here? He's found an issue with how these parts are racked. And look at this, he's following protocol to a T. He's rejecting these parts and sending them back to racking just like he's supposed to. Perfectly executed. Hurrah! Oh, Jimmie, look. You know what time it is?
It's time for another edition of Skills to Pay the Bills.
This is the game show that prepares you to meet the big bad world of business head on. Let's meet our contestant, Jimmie.
Happy to be here.
No time for small talk, Jimmie. Let's get right to it. You have no points on the board, so let's start with something easy. What is the initial part that is given to the company for processing called?
Is it the basis metal?
Good job. You have 50 points on the board. What is the amount of time that a part that is submerged in a solution on the processing line called?
I don't know. Immersion time?
That's correct. Another 50 points on the board.
Next question. How many different racking styles are there and how are they best used?
There are 4 different rack styles. The wire rack, the finger rack, the square rack, and the round rack.
Congratulations. Now let's go to the screen and see how they are best used.
And that buzzer means we have time for one more question. And now, Jimmie, for a chance to take and double your points on the board, here's a little role play. You are an employee on the anodizing line, and a rack of parts comes to you with no explanation of what process this rack of parts requires. Without having to go to your supervisor, where do you turn to see what processes this rack of parts should go through?
The work order.
And he takes the game! Congratulations, Jimmie! Johnny, tell him what he's won! Now back to your regularly scheduled training. So, Jimmie, take a look right here. We have some parts coming fresh off the line. Watch what they do to these parts. This needs to be done to every part, every time. You see here, the employee is making sure that the parts were and are thoroughly rinsed and dried upon leaving the processing line. And see, he's following protocol and counting the parts to make sure that all of them made it through processing. Every one of these parts should be checked to see if they were properly plated, and also that they do not have any air pockets, pits, scratches, dents, or burn marks. If none are found, it is now time to unrack the parts.
It's important to note that each of these racking styles is different and requires a very specific technique to properly rack and unrack the parts so as not to scratch or dent the parts. Come on, let's take a closer look. Square rack, round rack, finger rack, and wire rack.
You see here, Jimmie, this employee is wearing white gloves to handle the parts. This keeps him from leaving any dirt or oil on it, which could damage the finish of the part. You see that? This man is the purest picture of what a metal-moving, aluminum-dipping, anodizing mega-mind among fools should look like. Take a good long look, son. That is your future. Now watch. All that's left for him to do is complete his paperwork. Clean up his work area, and his work here is complete. So remember these steps, Jimmy, to be the best and most efficient anodizer you can be. And if you have any questions, refer to your work order or talk to your supervisor. Thank you for watching.